Hi, and welcome back to Ask a Monk. Today's question is from Isanine. Meditation seems investigative and empirical, but Buddhist texts claim supernatural entities, realms, and laws exist. Are these claims relevant to Buddhist practice today? How do you reconcile seeing things as they are with taking things on faith? Well, first a note that as I understand the word supernatural, Buddhist texts don't claim the existence of anything supernatural. What Buddhist texts claim is that these entities, realms, and laws are perfectly natural. And the claim is then that the laws of physics are only a small part of the natural reality. And this is this is something that we often take on faith, and I want to explain how we answer this idea of taking things on faith versus seeing things as they are. There are two answers to it. The first one, obviously, is that um, when we understand these things to be natural, we are not taking them on faith, and we are investigating them. So much of the claims that seem to be supernatural or are extraordinary in Buddhism are actually investigatable. That you can empirically investigate things like past lives. You can investigate heaven. You can investigate magical powers, so-called magical powers. All of these super mundane or extraordinary experiences and realities can all be investigated through practice. And so the reason why we might take those things on faith is, in the beginning, is because we are studying to realize some of them. Now, obviously, most of these things are not necessary to become free from suffering or to see things clearly or to reach the goal of Buddhism. But there are many people who do practice to realize them. And there are many things which are a part of the path, as far as gaining high states of concentration. And even things like remembering one's past lives could be helpful. Although none of these things are necessary for the path. But we take them on faith. We can take them on faith, and if we are interested in them, then we take them on faith in the same way as a physics student will take on with faith the theories and laws proposed by those above them, those who have come before them. While they study them, and while they examine them and do experiments on them, and while they try to understand them. And many of these things, once you come to understand the basic reality, the basic building blocks of reality, and you come to realize that the best way to approach what is the meaning of reality, or the best way to understand reality, is from a basis of the mind, a basis of consciousness, and that our consciousness actually creates our reality, which is perfectly in line with the laws of quantum physics, for example. Then you start to open up to such things and start to realize that these things are perfectly in line with reality. There's no reason why they shouldn't be able to exist. Though we may not have proof, we can take them on faith in the meantime, or we can suspend our judgment and then practice to realize them. I think the other more important and more immediately applicable or practical answer to this question is that we take a lot of these things on faith because they're not of much meaning to us. For instance, when someone asks, do you believe in Australia? And if you're from America, you've probably never been to Australia. So you can say, yes, I believe in Australia. And you say, what? You've never been there? You've never seen it? And we can say, well, I believe people because they've been there and they've told me about it. But we also believe it because we don't have any reason not to believe it. We don't have any reason to be concerned about its existence or non-existence. If we're wrong, it doesn't influence our life in any way. It doesn't mean anything for the daily. It isn't a big problem for us if we turn out to be wrong. So we say, yeah, I believe these people, they've said that. And we don't investigate it because we say to ourselves, if it's wrong, then it's not a big deal. So most of these things, the belief in gods, the belief in angels, the belief in other realms of existence, and so on, Well, they on the one hand they make sense from the point of view of the creation of existence or the progress of existence based on the mind, that if we can exist as human beings, there's nothing special about this reality that makes it more likely than, say, the angel realms or so on. So we can understand it in terms of the probability of its existence. But then we can also say, well, even if they don't exist, it doesn't mean that much to me. I see that the meditation practice is helping me, and I'm here to practice meditation, and I'm following the Buddha's teaching, not specifically because maybe one day I'll gain magic powers or because I've been born before or so on and so on, but because when I practice meditation, I see that it does good things for me. I see that it helps me. And so we don't worry or concern ourselves too much about these things. So I would say that's two ways of answering this question. On the one hand, they're not that supernatural and they're not that hard to understand if you practice meditation. And on the other hand, they're not of that great importance for us. It's important for us to have some sort of willingness to investigate some of the claims that the Buddha made in terms of the cause of suffering and the nature of the mind, so that we can then experiment and say, is it true, is it real, and come to see it clearly. But there's many things that the Buddha said that we may choose not to investigate, and we may just take on faith and say, if it were a big deal for me, I'd investigate it. But for my benefit, for my practice, it's not that important. Okay? So I hope that helps to clear up my understanding of the Buddha's position on these issues. Okay? Thanks for the question.